Hi everyone, Scott from ColourSpace here. It is time again for another episode of Take 5 with Art, where we give you that little bit of permission to take a small mental break, to sit down, unwind, disconnect, and look at an amazing piece of artwork. So as always, pens down, keyboards aside, let's take 5 with Art. So the piece we're looking at here today is Jumping Birds by Melbourne-based artist Alyssia Tedeschi. Alyssia has a background in photography, however, she works predominantly in retouching. Alyssia predominantly works in fashion, however, when time allows, she dabbles in her artistic and creative side. This piece actually comes from a series called Tiny Trails, which feature hand-drawn children playing around in almost fantasy-like environments. So let's have a talk about the specifics of this piece of artwork, because it's actually quite interesting. Jumping Birds is a great example of an artwork that has been created using a combination of different media and styles. Having talked to the artist in detail about the creation of this piece, well, what I know is that the background, which is the rocks, the ruins, and the sky, are all real photos. These are then being composited together to create that background. Alyssia then went to another Melbourne-based artist called Lydia Wong, who's well known for her manga-style characters, to draw these children at play in that Alyssia can then put into the piece here. And then the final touch is then she would digitally alter aspects of the piece, such as the color or such as adding grain to it, in order to make it feel like both characters in the foreground and the background fit together seamlessly. The effect this creates, when you look at it, is a really interesting one, because if you were to ignore the characters and just look at the background, you might think to yourself, oh yeah, this is a photo. However, with the addition of these obviously hand-drawn characters, you're actually left wondering, is this a digital artwork? Is it a photo? Is it real? Is it fantasy? Is this a real place? And it just opens up these really interesting questions. So as with all art appreciation, there's always our 3 steps to follow. 1, straight up, do you like this piece? 2, if not, are there any particular elements that you like? And then 3, if you just don't like it, that's also totally fine too. For me personally, I really like this piece. In my youth, I was raised on, Studio Ghibli, on otherworldly sort of Japanese fantasy games like Final Fantasy. And this art style just really brings back memories of my childhood, of those movies, and of the fun that I had in those worlds. If we go a little bit deeper into the piece itself, so some of the specific elements that I like, I actually really like the fact that this is quite a muted piece of artwork. When you look at it, you get the sense that maybe these children are playing in a stormy environment, or if they're maybe perhaps by the sea, and it gives it a real cool sort of vibe to it, which I also quite resonate with. In terms of what else I get from this piece, it actually comes back to the fact that Alyssia used all these different methods to create this final piece here. I have often talked about how the source of creativity and innovation is not always in discovering or inventing something completely new, by combining things that we're familiar with but in different ways to create something different. Photographs, completely normal. Manga characters, completely normal. But put them together and add a few other effects, and we have something that is not quite digital artwork, but also not quite a photograph, not quite a drawing, but something that's really original and also really interesting as well. And perhaps that's something that you might be able to relate to as well. Are there perhaps things that you're working on right now that if you simply mix and match a couple of things together, you might be able to produce something completely different? If you do think of something, please, I'd love to know in the comments below. Otherwise, that's time. Thank you for spending a few moments to look at Jumping Birds by Alyssia Tedeschi. And now, get back to work.